very quick overview and recap of some key things that I think happened on day one. And then I'm going to hand you over to Gary for his introductory presentation. So, just a few thoughts, really. And if anybody else has got any thoughts in a minute, I'll be keen to hear if anyone else has got something that they want to share, any observations about day one. Some things that stuck out for me were that in the networking the network session, we heard the word ambassadoring. We were talking about ambassadors and the fact that actually it should be more of a verb. So we heard the word ambassadoring, which is a word that I'd never heard before, and the fact that we can all do ambassadoring. It's a kind of ugly word, I think. So if somebody wants to invent a new one, because we heard from Matthew in the Holochain session about new grammars and about how we can invent new language and how language and culture is held in our brains and our bodies, and that we can invent that as we go. And he gave us such a great examples of how that works that I think ambassadoring is one of those words that needs reinventing so that we can create new shared language. So maybe we'll have a crack at that today. The other thing that I thought was extremely exciting was, about the ambassadoring, really, and then the kind of idea of networking the networks, where we were talking about potentially trying to create meta-networks and, bringing together all the people from disparate silos. Basically, one of the conclusions that I took from that, everybody seemed to be agreeing, was that it's just nice to talk to people face to face. And so that really encouraged me with the fact that we've actually brought people together who are actually doing that, and that is one of the strongest ways that you can build alliances between different networks. Like how we go about rewarding that, I didn't quite get to the answers, but I like Francesca's answer that doing the kind of, even if you're emailing somebody and you're linking somebody with somebody else, that you say via, I'm speaking to this person and I got there in this introduction via so-and-so, just as a little point of recognition to try and say thanks for recognizing those connections that are being made. So I thought that was quite cool. The other thing that seemed to really please me, actually, was the fact that when we started talking about the social networks and open source social networks and platforms and protocols, at the end of the session there, Mark and Mail and Claire all seemed to agree unanimously that we should be heading towards protocols rather than platforms. And Thomas was just pointing out that he's not sure exactly what that means, so just try and spell it out again for everybody in case anyone's under any misconception. And that means basically heading towards a protocol means rather than having something that sits in the middle that we all interact with and come to, this place that Matthew was describing, like every app is a place where we go, and we go there and they try and hold us there and encourage us to stay there, and then we come away and come out of it. It's more about just having a shared language. In the same way that HTTP enables us all to use the web and FTP enables us to send files, it's about, having a protocol by which we can all communicate. So I thought, that was extremely exciting to me because I was basically expecting them all to disagree with me or at least to argue amongst themselves, and they seem to be unanimous that we should be heading towards protocols rather than platforms. So that's very exciting. And also in the final session, where we were talking about the ontology and the changing narrative, people generally seem to agree that the phrase people and planet before profit seemed to be a relatively suitable thing to be talking about. So that was encouraging too. But most inspiring, I thought, was the words from Christina, who was describing the female politician, I think in Spain, whose name I missed, so if anybody knows, but was the lady who basically said that politics is about caring. I'd never heard that before. And it's like, that really made me kind of wake up and think, why hasn't anyone said that before? I liked the way that she described Christina. She's come in just at the perfect moment. Who is the lady who says that politics is about caring?
Well, a lot of people. The more high profile would be Ada Colau, the mayor of Barcelona, and Manuela Carmena, the mayor of Madrid.
Right. Perfect. So, and I think the examples there were that they've both stood up and not done the kind of standard male supremacist kind of, I have all the answers, I can tell you what to do. Instead, they'd come with this attitude that politics is about caring, which is kind of, to me, is pretty radical. It's not the sort of thing that we normally hear. Those are my reflections on day one. Does anybody have anything burning that they would like to share with the group? Anyone, anything at all that you thought was interesting or rubbish or important from yesterday? Yes?
What is a platform co-op?
That's a good question. A platform co-op was introduced in the Platform Co-op Showcase, and it's basically, unlike a protocol that we just discussed, a platform co-op is a platform which is owned and governed by its members. So be they the workers who actually build the platform, or the customers, or the suppliers, or any other relevant stakeholders. A platform co-op can have many different forms and be set up and incorporated as several different types of legal vehicle. In the UK, probably the most common legal setup would be a multi-stakeholder co-op, where you can define the membership classes of that co-op. So the most typical ones would probably normally, if you thought about something like a Fairbnb type setup, which I don't think I need to define, is you would have some people that are running the platform who actually go to work at Fairbnb and build the platform, the app, and deal with customer service and all of that stuff. They're the workers, and they would probably have quite a large stake. And then you have the hosts who would be hosting people. They should probably have some ownership and some governance as well. And probably another membership class of maybe even a renter, like a person who goes and stays. And then you could have another class of suppliers, or somebody, even like cleaners or other people that were invested in the platform in some way, who also get a say in how the platform co-op runs and is governed. No problem. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce to you now Gary Alexander. So when we set up the Open Co-op back in 2004, we had this idea that we wanted to create a community of people that were committed to creating a collaborative, sustainable economy. And there was 4 or 5 of us that got together, and we went up to Gary's house in Norfolk, and we all went and stayed for a couple of days, and we spent those days defining exactly what we were going to do. Back then, we were probably, as I've been mentioning to a few people, we were a little bit ahead of our time. We started trying to say, look, we've built this amazing website, all come and join in, and we can build this thing, we're going to create a collaborative, sustainable economy. And everyone went, really? What? No, you're not. And then we got several hundred people on there. They were all quite interested, and we started to develop a few things. And then, like most ambitious projects, without any funding, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. And that was extremely disappointing until, and it's only over really the last 3 or 4 years that we've really been able to pick up on that work and try and pull together more interest, basically partly because of the platform co-op meme that has become so well supported.